I've literally just realized that it's Good Morning Samoa. Like, I did the deep breath to go in, but I'm not actually live at noon. And it's 5 o'clock, so it's too late to look up a time zone where it's Tokyo time now. It's not gonna 9 a.m. Beijing time now? Good morning, Beijing, and welcome back to Star Trek Prodigy, Season 2, Episode 5, Observer's Paradox, which, interestingly, on Sunday, Memory Alpha had listed as the Mystery Spiral. I'm not really sure where Observer Paradox comes from in the title. Mystery Spiral is rather obvious. Presumably, that's the French title translated into English. But personally, I choose to call this episode, for God's sake, someone teach Murph how to write. Why? Okay, this episode, the bit where they fired a torpedo, yeah, that was good. Yeah, some nice stuff with Janeway, some emotional stuff there. I like that. The last 30-odd seconds, this sequence with Gwen, visually very interesting. I was into it. The story was moving forward. I was engaged. Everything else, there are leaps in logic, and then there's this. I mean, as I alluded to the premise, it's been months since they arrived on Earth, like since the end of Season 1. We had a reference to that in this episode. It was referenced in the season premiere. It's been months. Murph is apparently actively studying at the academy, although not a student. I don't really understand that part. And nobody can understand Murph. The instructors can't. Janeway decides to go with the interview anyway, despite the fact that no one can understand him, making no attempts to actually be able to understand Murph. Does Murph not have homework? Like, does Murph never have to provide feedback to an instructor or be assessed for his performance, for their performance, rather? It's been months. Okay, though, the universal translator can't understand him, right? I will accept that as a premise initially. So the solution is that Murph evolved from aquatic life. So did I, but okay. Because Murph evolved from aquatic life, if we put him underwater, maybe we'll be able to understand him and hear him. I'm not following, even ignoring the whole I also came from aquatic life, because you still won't know what he's saying. It's not like he's suddenly going to be speaking English. But we have a whale here who I guess just isn't going to report any of this. Lieutenant Commander over here just letting them do whatever. The whale here is like, well, maybe I can understand Murph because I'm a whale. And I can relay it to you by telling you what's Murph saying. Because the universal translator speaks whale. Evidently, Murph's language is so close to whale that Lieutenant Commander Whale over here can understand Murph's native tongue just by being a whale and speaking whale, but the universal translator, whose job it is to look at existing languages in its database and then use that to extrapolate meaning from a new language, a task it does so well that 99% of the time it will succeed without ever hearing a single word of the alien language. It failed, despite knowing whale and literally every other language known to the Federation, and then some. Okay. Let's not even begin to say Worf was saying letters and numbers, which, if we accept the magic that is the universal translator, either that should be extremely easy to translate, or I don't actually understand what... Okay, guys, put the alphabet write the alphabet down and have Murph point at the letters. You would have achieved this goal much sooner. Rok-Tahk's been at this for months. This episode doesn't make any sense to the point where I can't even let that slide just for what is supposed to be an entertaining, fun romp, because it's such logically nonsensical and central to the plot that it's not fun. God's sakes, why can't Murph write? Yeah, and let's not even begin to mention the fact that Rok-Tahk just so happens to have been assigned to Cetacean Ops, which is the one place on the ship that we can supposedly correctly hear Murph's language, and also just happens to contain the sole member of the crew who can actually understand what Murph is saying. Actually, one of the only species in the entire Federation which can actually understand Murph just so happens to be Rok-Tahk's sole co-worker. That is a little too much for me. That is just a little bit too much for me. But anyway, this episode, again, I didn't really have too much. I think I'm going to change how we'll be reviewing Prodigy. We'll get to that at the end. You also just have generally... I felt like this would be a problem. It's been a minor thing. Honestly, it's still a minor thing. But it does bug me that some of these people, especially Rok-Tahk, don't just, like, report these findings to Starfleet, who could help, and are probably much better able and equipped to help. And you currently have no real reason to believe that they wouldn't involve you, given that you are clearly integral and central to this mystery. Yeah, just a few other things. I'll finally call out that they have the Doctor materialize in the middle of rooms because he's a hologram, but they still have him wear his holographic emitter, which I noticed in episode 1, but that's really bugging me. It's a minor detail, but it's really bugging me. You could say maybe they beam his mobile emitter, but then why doesn't everyone else beam around the ship? We're clearly not the Discovery era. Yeah, welcome to the ranty... welcome to the ranty episode. We did get some background on Chakotay, though. I tried to look up this planet. Actually, can I get it spelt? Can I see it on the monitor? Because Chakotay's interesting, actually. Voyager in general is actually interesting, because, of course, they were planning Voyager while The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine were airing. And so Rick Berman mandated some setup for Voyager. I believe Nick Locarno was originally actually going, like, Nick Locarno was set up for Voyager. Tom Paris was going to be Nick Locarno, literally. The character who, of course, Robert Duncan McNeil, isn't it? Tom Paris's actor played in TNG on Nova Squad. I'm not sure for a fact. That might have been coincidental. But both the Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation had episodes that were direct setup for Voyager. For Deep Space Nine, it was, I believe the episode is actually the Maquis, but it is the two-parter that introduces the Maquis. That was mandated, like, hey, you have to introduce the Maquis for Voyager. And The Next Generation had, end of the... Yep. Oh, that's fine. That's just the recording. OBS freaked out because I ran out of disk space again. TNG had the episode that was Wesley's last, like the last journey, end of a journey, something like that, where they went to the planet of Native Americans that they basically had to kick out. And Picard was like, hey, historical context, people. And so I've always believed, and I found it weird this wasn't a direct tie, that you could probably get this confirmed somewhere. I've always imagined that Chakotay is supposed to have been from this planet, that of course eventually left the Federation, and I guess we were implied to believe joined the Maquis, but it could have been something separate. Well, no, it literally is. Like, they are giving that planet up to the Cardassians. Like, it is a planet in the demilitarized zone where the Maquis are from. Because, of course, Chakotay is generically Native American. It is odd coincidence, and it feels like direct setup for the character of Chakotay. They didn't use any of that other than the existence of Maquis, though, because Rick Berman, weird dude. I don't know. It's almost like he was afraid of being sued or something. Like, they used Robert Duncan McNeil, just a different character who was basically the same character as Nick Locarno. On the Deep Space Nine episode, I believe Rick Berman is credited for the Maquis, even though he didn't write a single word, because Rick Berman basically made them put his name on the episode for, I guess, so they could use it in Voyager, because Rick Berman was involved in Voyager. And I know there are quotes, like on Memory Alpha, for I think Ira, maybe the actual writer of the episode, was like, what the hell, man? Like, he got really angry. He's like, are you afraid of being sued? Like, we're a franchise. You can use the Maquis. Ignore that. That was the cap of my water bottle. But yeah, I bring it up because Trebus, whatever the planet was, is not the planet from the last journey, whatever. I did look that up on Memory Alpha. I don't even know. I don't know how to spell it. In fact, I can go to the Memory Alpha page for this episode now. As soon as I get my water bottle closed again. It might be a planet from Deep Space Nine. The Memory Alpha page is totally empty. Yeah. Memory Alpha editors are a little busy right now. But I don't believe we ever learned where Chakotay was from. Like, we learn about his fictitious tribe, but I don't even know if it's stated he's from Earth or not. I hope it's not from Earth. Oh, here we go. Human rubber tree people tribe. That's... You tried. Federation Starfleet Captain. Protostar. Oh, look, 2383. There's confirmation. We are 2383. How old is Chakotay then? That's an interesting... 2383 minus 2329. 54 years. Yeah, so Voyager. He would have been, like, in his late 40s, I guess. That checks out. But unfortunately, they don't actually say the planet he was born on. That's also weird. They show the badges that he's ever won. Well, if you're, like, Tuvok, and you've lived for ages, and you have so many badges. But yeah, again, believe it or not, I don't think I have too much to say. Jellicoe's been getting cameos. I bet that actor's enjoying the small paycheck every now and then. But it is, I guess, a nice little bit of community, or continuity. Although, from what I said that first episode, Prodigy, I do think, is still having a little bit of small world syndrome. Like, we had the Cerritos referenced again. We had weird... Like, we're getting references to specific episodes that don't quite apply. I mentioned before the Bell Riots and First Contact, which aren't really causal loops, like they were cited. We got the reference to the episode where Worf was, like, jumping around timelines, but that doesn't really seem to apply to the situation. That might have been last episode, actually, when they were talking about how they were going to time travel. Like, it was tangent. I think it's just that's the principle they're using to time travel, but was that really the best episode you could have come up with for, like, here's a time someone time traveled? The Cerritos was referenced as, like, the most dysfunctional ship, which, in practice, I feel like it's not. But to be fair, not too long ago, there was a massive Federation news story outlining the Cerritos is literally the most dysfunctional ship ever, where the only crew member who had anything positive to say was Mariner. So from an outside perspective, yeah, the Cerritos probably looks pretty darn bad. But I don't know. It's not really intruding. I guess what it's for is if you're watching this as a kid, you go on and watch the other Star Treks, and then you come back to here, it'll just really help it feel like part of the same universe. It won't feel separated. It won't feel like the kids' Star Trek. It'll feel like a part of that core universe, which is good, of course. I don't know. It's just a fine line. Like, did even Picard, which literally had the whole TNG cast, I don't think had this many references. Or at the very least, the references it did have were integral to the narrative. Like, for example, if the benefactor really is someone from the Temporal Cold War, like, that's an integral part of the narrative. The changelings in Picard are a core part of the narrative until episode 10. Stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think I have too much to say. Because a lot of it is still set up. Like, where does this go? Is this actually... I was gonna check this. Is that the stone he uses for his vision quest? Chakotay Vision Quest. Yes, it is. I've got it here. In fact, I've got it there. That is the stone he uses for his vision quests, except mirrored. That's interesting. I bet this scene was probably flipped for some reason, or this... I doubt Memory Alpha's flipped. Is it the same? Yeah, it's the same stone. That's a very weird detail to get wrong. So maybe actually, I'd be very surprised if we have a vision quest, but maybe we will. As I said, of course, the Native American cultural advisor for Voyager was a massive fraud. So anything I know about vision quests from Voyager should be scrapped. But I did have a roommate in one of my college years who was Native American, and definitely said that the vision quest aspect of Chakotay was like the worst possible thing. Of course, you know, there are a whole bunch of different tribes with different beliefs and, you know, all that stuff. It is a real thing. A vision quest isn't, like, totally made up. I do know that from her. But I know she also was telling me that it's apparently, like, incredibly sacred, and you would never have an outsider undergo the vision quest, which you do see Chakotay do for some people in Voyager. And it just generally, if I was bringing Chakotay back, I guess I'd do one of two things. I would stay the hell away from anything about his Native American heritage, or you could actually get a good good cultural advisor and do it properly. And yeah, I guess there's no reason you could do that. I don't think anyone will complain if you really rewrite those aspects. Like, the vision quest is different now, but it's actually what, like, a vision quest is. Who knows? Because I can see the narrative appeal, especially for an animated show. You could let yourself be unbound by reality. You could do interesting visual things. You can tell sort of cryptic, you could give cryptic messages, cryptic symbolism that you could build into a satisfying mystery, something the crew has to work out. You do just have to be careful because, as I said, it is a incredibly cultural significant and real thing. It's not some alien custom. But yeah, I mean, in this sequence, as I mentioned, was the highlight of the episode, which isn't saying much. There's still a bit of weird things, like, I'm sure it'll never be explained exactly what this was or how it happened. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to review because there's a lot of things that are going to come up again later. And that's one of the reasons I think I said that I'm going to change how I do Prodigy. I'm not going to be doing these one-off, one-episode reviews anymore. There's not a whole lot to say. It just kind of puts a weird buffer time for me where I have to be sitting around between the episode and the live stream. I'm kind of segmenting the story in weird ways. I'm getting into it, but I'm not really able to get like deep into what is clearly a heavily serialized story. And there's so much that's probably going to change when I have more context, when you've seen the whole thing. So, what I've decided, and also, yeah, it's a weird time. Like, no one's actually in the live chat because a lot of people are probably still working or asleep. So I figure what I'm going to do is we're not going to do any more of this style review for Prodigy. But on Saturday or Sunday, I have to coordinate Doctor Who stuff with Caden, see if we're doing it this weekend. But Saturday or Sunday, I decided, what if we just do a mega watch-along? 24-minute episodes was 4 hours, I believe. 24 times 20 divided by 60. 24 times 20. It was 8 hours. Apparently, I got the episode count wrong. Yeah, you know what? If it's 8, I might split it in half, do Saturday and Sunday, depending on Doctor Who. Pay attention to the community channel. But yeah, I think it'll just be more enjoyable. And then I'll do the watch-alongs like I do for TOS, like we're doing for the 9th Doctor, 10th Doctor stuff. And then everyone can watch Prodigy. They can get along. I'll probably have it be a spoilery review, so I'll talk about the end. Like, I can talk about episode 20 when we're watching episode 1. And we'll do it in one big go. Or maybe one big go with, like, an intermission in the middle. Because it is 8 hours. And that way we can talk about the full Prodigy. We can talk about the whole thing. We can hopefully get a little more interaction as well from people. We can talk about theories. We can talk about more stuff. And at the end, you know, we can talk about some extra things, like big picture, what we thought about it. But I think that is going to be best. And it's just going to be enjoyable, more enjoyable for everyone, and you'll still get my full opinion on all the episodes. It's just, if we're going to spend like 23 minutes talking about every episode, why don't we just do it while we watch the episodes? And the reason I'm doing it as a second watch through is, I've said plenty of times before, it's not I don't think it's good to do watch-alongs for a first watch-through. For me, you can do whatever the hell you want. But I can't focus on the shows as much. When we did it for Picard Season 2, that was fine, because Picard Season 2 is awful. But you'd notice there were a lot of times where I'm like, what did he say? Was there a line that I missed? Or someone would point out I missed a line. And for a show that has, you know, is about this complex, I don't really want to be missing a line. So yeah, save that timeline. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I will go. I'm about to have to watch a pup because my wife is getting a new dog. I suppose that means I'm getting a new dog too, but like they literally have to leave. I'll probably just go finish Prodigy. I'll have some fun time there. Can I get Netflix on the TV upstairs? I hope so. So I will say thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.